Hello, chicos, chicas, friends. We are inside my head. I don't know why I'm wearing this headset. I don't need this. And we are going to play something different today. We have been doing some Slav content, but now I guess with B3 we can do whatever we want. Let's go after that center. Let's go after that center. And we're going to play C5 even. Now D4 surprised me a lot. I expected here E3, which is going to be essentially a reverse Queen's Indian. But with D4, it is no bueno, man. It is just no bueno, because now we take this, and almost certainly we are going to get an easy access to E5. So after knight D4, which I'm expecting, I already have E5. Although then knight F3 attacks the pawn from two different angles, and I might have to push through. But that actually creates a very exciting scenario, which I would really like to happen. Which is none other than if knight takes E5, knight F3, E4, and when the knight jumps back to D4, then we go E3, and we wreck that pawn structure on the king side and exploit the black king, the white king, excuse me. And I'm so excited, I can't wait to go. So let's bring it on. And it's pretty much forced now, because obviously the knight can't really go to b5, because then it gets just kicked and kicked and kicked. This is the textbook case, by the way, of understanding the center, my friends, the center. That's the way games are decided. So now we go e4. Once again, expecting knight back to d4, and then we are going to go to e3. And yeah, that is a pawn formation that I really like playing against, because after fe, the white king is quite exposed. In particular, after knight e4, I have got a queen h4 threat already. And it's also rather tricky to develop the bishop on g2, because white needs to technically move both pawns on the e-file. And that is very difficult and unpleasant to accomplish. So here we go, e3. This motif, by the way, can be summarized as: do not move this bishop off of this diagonal without first playing e3. It particularly applies to the reverse openings. We have this motif in my Club Players 1 d4 repertoire at a number of lines. In particular, it's a relevant motif in the Gala Gambit and in some variations of the Queen's Gambit accepted. Those two are the ones where it really can pop up a fair bit. Once again, fe. I don't know what I'm gonna do actually. Knight e4 is super tempting with an immediate queen h4. Yeah, I reckon I will go. The only thing I don't want to do is to play knight e4 and then later succumb to some kind of a trade scenario where we can't avoid the trade. So yeah, I'm not 100% certain. So let's see, takes knight e4. If they play g3, I can add a little bit of fuel to the fire by playing bishop d6. By the way, note, once the knight is on e4, we have another motif that is very important, which is that I can sneak in a check. And there is no way to block it with pieces, so they have to play c3, which may be relevant in some lines when we disconnect the bishop from the knight. Yeah, time to go in. It might feel counterintuitive to many because it's technically non-developing, but it's instead centralizing, which is just as good. And when it comes to development, it's a funny topic, because sometimes you hindering your opponent's development is much more important than conducting your own. And this is what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to stop certain moves from white. And by the way, speaking of that bishop b4 idea, I just realized that maybe it's better if I don't rush it, because if I allow them to play knight d2, then bishop b4 was going to win that piece. So now I was thinking maybe bishop c5 or knight c6, either or. But knight c6 with the concept of knights before bishop seems healthier, because if knight d2 again, I may contemplate bishop b4. Pinning the dudeski. Also note that the trade on e4 is by no means the end of the world. because once this takes place and I take back, provided we dodge the queen trade, yeah, that knight has to go again somewhere. Bishop c5 is a move. Bishop g7 is hanging. Bishop takes e3. Oh, ouchie. Ouchie, that's big. Bishop c5, bishop g7, bishop takes e3, bishop takes, and then Matutski on f2. Ouch, that looks too delicious to miss, or to not to go for. Oh man, yeah, that e3 one was healthy. It's quite funny actually that I just made a YouTube video about a double pawn that was particularly productive for my position on h7 and h6 from the black's point of view in the French. Well, there's not a lot to be said about these boys on the positive side. Okay, bishop d4. I didn't exactly look at this, which means that I'm lazy. Or my intuition is incredible. Ha, that was a joke. But actually, this is not good, I think, because I can take this, right? And if pawn takes, then bishop b4, and now the dark squares are just chronically exposed. Yeah, this is over. Yeah, there's nothing to be done here, because after knight to bishop g4, I'm just... Oof. For a second, I wanted to checkmate the queen, but then I realized it's a queen, so... Yeah, so if the queen-king was reversed, then this would be a mate in 2 now, right? There is your pattern recognition. Yeah, bishop g4 followed by takes, and takes is unstoppable, right? So this is basically resignation. Unless I'm missing something glaring obvious. Wouldn't be unheard of that I miss something glaring obvious, but I hope I do not. Now, a couple of notes to take other than the actual chess moves and the objective value of the moves. I find that in most cases when I play inside my head games, and I almost doesn't matter what time I set, but usually I do 15-10, but even on 10-0, my opponent's time consumption is terrible in that they play incredibly fast. And I say it despite the fact that their time usage has been a lot more cutting into their time than mine, but there are 2 reasons for this. One, well, I am a much higher rated player. I play a lot more on intuition than they do, and more often than not I tend to do it reasonably well, right? So I can afford playing reasonably quickly. Number 2, although their time consumption appears to be quite on point, they are using a fair bit of their time, they started thinking now. Like, they spent on c3 about 1.5 minutes. Way too late. The first point where they really should have thought a lot was here, when he played d4 or she. And there was no thinking there whatsoever. And that's a hugely committal decision because it created friction in the center. There was a lot to calculate in terms of trades and then me occupying the center. Now thinking about c3, man, it's way too late to the party. And of course now everything is just falling apart. So yeah, and that's it. We have conquered. That was a victory in how many? 14 moves. Ouch. That usually doesn't happen. So let's have a look at what went sideways here. For white, clicking on the game review, I actually had a miss. It's only 90% accuracy on my end. So what did I do wrong? Wow, 94 was a mistake. Oh, knight g4. Shish kebab, I didn't even think about knight g4. Is that it? Oh wait, wrong move. 94. Ooh. But what if c3? Oh, damn, bishop d6. Okay, this didn't occur to me at all. Because I wanted to do the reverse. I thought that it was a lot smarter to go in with knight e4 to threaten with bishop b4 at some moments. So what on earth? There has to be bishop d6. Yeah, just bishop d6 or bishop c5. And now I think it's much more geared toward knight g4 and actually going for mate. Yeah, I was so obsessed with this knight e4 idea that I didn't even think about this, and shame on me for that. Yeah, I mean, once you chuck a knight on e3, that is gonna be even more devastating than observing my opponent's pawn on e3. So the engine's lines go with g3, let's say castles, bishop g2, knight g4, queen d3, and rook e8. And you're gonna take here, unless they play something utterly ugly. But I don't really see that this would be so much better than knight e4. So apparently white's best is knight b5 or knight what? Knight c3? No. Wow, there is not a chance I would have found this. The idea being that after bishop b4, white has got knight db5 with the idea of kicking this bishop. So if I attack the knight, I assume it's gonna be... Hello tactics, be my friend. Wow, queen takes in the knight check, defends the knight on c3. Okay, I guess. Wow. So I need to castle and then a3. And now I have to give up the pin. What? Wait. So if I take and knight h4, isn't this like Carnage City? Okay. I would have thought that this position is completely winning for black. According to the engine, it's 0.4 minus for black. Wow. Wow, there is so much to learn, man. There is so much to learn. Right, so our opponent made a big mistake here with knight f3, apparently. And now knight c6 was also inaccurate because bishop b4 check, my initial idea, would have been, according to the machine, the better one. c3, bishop c5, and yeah, e3 is again on the menu big time. Knight c6, g3 was acceptable, bishop c5 was great, bishop d4, and that was the game-losing blunder. So even in a game that I thought I was doing really, really well, there was a fair bit to learn, although the tactical ideas there, they were, wow, next level. But there is one thing that we definitely need to take away from this game. So at 2000 rapid, you cannot afford to play an opening like this, which means that this is what you do all the time, every time, right? So it's not like we are talking about the Sicilian knight of poison pawn, what the best move is on move 24. We're talking about an opening that this guy must be playing day in, day out. And even if they don't, this is super basic. You can't just lunge forward with d4 here and hope for the best. Like, white is out of theory or out of book on move 4 and plays a move that just feels wrong every which way because this pawn doesn't have sufficient support. And so after move 5, white has lost the entirety of the center. Does this thing, by the way, now recommend... I wonder if my opponent got a pop-up, because now we have that feature on .com where chessable courses are recommended based on the type of mistakes or the game you played. I hope that now our friend has got a Chess Principles Reloaded center popping up on his screen, because having this with black after 5 moves, that should not fly ever. Anyways, friends, I'm gonna keep it short and sharp. That was inside my head. You know, for now it was a slightly short episode, but sometimes it happens. I hope that you found it very instructive. And I'm gonna be back with the next video very soon. Don't forget to leave a comment down below. Please press that like button, and you can super thank me if you want as well. And please sub if you haven't done so yet. And I'm gonna see you in the next video soon. Thank you. Bye.